What is going on, IVE Warriors? So today we have a study that I have touched on, but let's look at something very unique here. That, you know what? It's not really unique. It's done a lot. It's very misleading, but it's a tool for people to get clicks. It's a tool for people to continue to fearmonger, to ride a fearmonger wave if that's what's going on. And unfortunately, with a lot of things that have happened, certain diets have that were popular, it's become popular to try to poke at that diet or discredit that diet. And of course, with a lot of shifts with things like intuitive eating and things of that nature, intermittent fasting has been the target of a lot of different news articles or journalists trying to gain clicks and gain traction off of telling the people who have come into intermittent fasting over the past years, hey, look, the thing you're doing isn't working. They know that that's a clickable thing for the mass or large audience that have built over the years on intermittent fasting, right? We have celebrities who have done it and all these different things, and it gained popularity. So being counterculture is always going to drive clicks. So look at this study here: intermittent fasting as effective as counting calories for weight loss. Study finds, right? And it says nutritionists aren't shocked. Here's why. Now look at the date of this. This was published July 3rd, 2023. So essentially today. It was published today, or when this video comes out, it was published today, right? If this video comes out later, I'm recording this July 3rd, and this released July 3rd, right? So, and then it says research found that people lost the same amount of weight on intermittent fasting as they did on calorie counting diet. People in both groups were able to keep the weight off after a year, and nutritionists say that there are few factors to consider when choosing one over the other. Now, let's look at what the study says, right? You would think, hey, whoa, a new study saying that intermittent fasting is, just as effective as calorie counting. You would think that, but when you click on the New England, this is the study that they're talking about, a study of 139 people, and they give you the link here. It's in the New England Journal of Medicine. I heard about a study that was in the New England Journal of Medicine that is very similar to what they're saying. Let me go ahead and click. Oh, it's the same study. It's the same study that everyone uses, that's been popularized on TikTok, that everyone says, hey, look, there's no difference between, intermittent fasting, calorie counting. This study proves it. And I've gone into detail on this study and broken it down, right? For a quick reference here, let me just go ahead and write 5 pounds of body fat. Let's go to images. Guys, this is what 5 pounds, see if you guys could see it. Yeah, there you guys could see it. This is what 5 pounds of body fat looks like. This is what 5 pounds of body fat looks like. If you were to hold it in your hand, this is what 5 pounds of body fat looks like, right? And that looks like a lot, right? Because it is a lot of mass. It is a lot of mass. Numerically, is it a lot? No, it's just 5 pounds. Sorry about that. It's just 5 pounds. Volume wise, is it a lot? Yes, it is a lot, right? So let's go ahead and look at what they were talking about when it comes to this study. One thing that I always do is I like to look at the actual details of the study, not what they're telling me based on the numerical significance, on the statistical significance, because although that is important in terms of a differentiator between you and the control, or the intervention group and the control group, intervention group being the intermittent fasting group and the control group being the calorie counting only group, where calories were equated. It was the same in terms of what they needed to lose the allotted amount of weight. And the numbers that they got from 69 people doing intermittent fasting and 70 people doing calorie counting was from baseline to weight loss, right? And it was an average. And because the average was not statistically and was not numerically significant, they just said, hey, don't worry about it. It's the same. However, the trend still applies. Intermittent fasting still always ends up losing more in waist circumference, more in weight overall, more in body fat, more in subcutaneous fat, which is the fat right beneath the skin. And you know how I know this? Because we have the data. If I click on here, we can see, and I want to make sure you guys can see everything here. Yeah, we can see these are the characteristics of the participants at baseline. This is actually, I'm sorry, this is them at baseline. So they're just showing us their baseline levels. This right here, and let me double check on my end. Okay, yeah. This right here shows the effects of the diets on weight loss and body composition. This is the intermittent fasting group, time restricted eating. So they ate earlier. It was a 16-hour fast with an 8-hour eating window. And then the daily caloric restriction group. Keep in mind that they equated for the calories for their weight loss to be the same, right? But for some reason, when we look at body weight, 6 months, 9.4 pounds. Now, keep in mind, this is an average. There's going to be people that lost way more and people that lost less. But when you look at the overall average of all the 69 people, 0.94 was the weight that was lost for the intermittent fasting group, while only 8.9 was lost for the calorie counting group. So more weight was lost, even though, yeah, it's similar, it's close, but the trend continues. More weight is lost with intermittent fasting, even if it's very close. In 12 months, the gap was even wider. So the more efficient group, in terms of looking at the amount of weight that they were able to keep off doing intermittent fasting, was the 12-month group, because they lost 0.8, while the calorie counting lost 0.63. So they lost way less. They're getting more diminishing returns than the intermittent fasting group in terms of the weight loss. So what happens in 2 years? What happens in 3 years? Who stays more consistent and closer to consistency and weight loss? The intermittent fasting group or the daily caloric restriction group? We don't know. That'll be a regression. It looks like so far off of just this one sample between 6 months and 12 months, it looks like there's a regression that's more negative for the just caloric restriction group, right? Then we look at body mass, 3.4, more in the intermittent fasting group, 3.2, less, 2.9, and then 2.3, regressing even more for the calorie counting group, right? But that doesn't get brought up. Nobody talks about that because it's right now. It's the fun thing to do is to say that intermittent fasting bad, right? Everything else good, intermittent fasting bad. So, of course, they're not going to talk about this. Then we look at waist circumference, more in the intermittent fasting group, less in the daily caloric restriction group, 9.4, 8.7. And I've already talked about this, but I just want to reiterate this really quickly, especially since there's new articles coming out and I'm getting questions from people like, can you do a video on this new study that has come out about how it's not different than calorie restriction, when in reality, they're just pulling from the old studies that they keep reusing and doing a different journal talking about the same study, which tricks people because they feel that people are not going to click. But I will always click on the study. I literally do not care what the article says because that's an opinion-based article. The study is the data, right? So then we look at 12 months. Again, 8.8 loss, more efficiency, 7.0. The regression continues, even when we're looking at waist circumference. Then we look at body fat mass, 6.9, so more, 6.4, 5.9, 4.5. The regression continues. Before, there was only a difference of 0.5. Now there's a difference of 1.5. And this is kilograms, guys. This is not pounds. So that translates to something like 3 point something pounds or 3 pounds or whatever. So, and remember, I showed you what 5 pounds of body fat looks like, right? So let's go back to it. Body fat mass, body lean mass. Now, I've always said this. When it comes to muscle tissue, intermittent fasting is not more optimal than eating throughout the day because of protein synthesis. One of the pillars of protein synthesis is meal frequency, having more frequent meals. So there is always going to lack in that. It's not going to be optimal. Can you build muscle with it? Yes, you can. But is it going to be the best form of building muscle so you can be at the most optimal biologically that your body can be? No, you won't be. And that's the honest truth when it comes to intermittent fasting regarding muscle. It's not the best for muscle, but it isn't going to completely eliminate your muscles either. It just isn't the best, right? So when we look at the muscle, yes, it lost more. 1.9, 1.7, 1.7, 1.4, difference of 0.3, 0.2, and 0.3, right? So it's very important that you make sure that you're working out, that you make sure that you're eating adequate protein, which is 0.7 grams of protein per lean pound of your overall body weight. So please make sure you're doing that since you're removing one pillar. Body fat percentage, minus 0.47, minus 0.44. Again, 0.43, minus 3. Again, regression. Negative regression for calorie counting. They're losing less and less. We went from 6 months to 12 months. They're losing less, while intermittent fasting is still losing more than they are. They're still closer to their original number of weight loss, right? And then we have area of abdominal fat in centimeter square, minus 32.9, minus 31.1, minus 26, minus 21. Look at this massive drop as compared to this, and it's minus 4.9. Then we have area of abdominal subcutaneous fat centimeter square, 6 months, minus 70.1 in comparison to minus 49.2. So this is when they're looking at the body fat in the belly, subcutaneous, abdominal subcutaneous fat. And in centimeters squared, it's a massive difference, minus 20.9. Now, we could get different weights on because of water, in terms of lean mass, in terms of how much body fat, glycogen buildup, all these different things can give us different internal weights. But when measuring the area of abdominal subcutaneous fat, they see a dramatic difference visually. But hey, look, the numbers are numerically not significant and statistically not significant. Therefore, it doesn't, they're the same. Everything's the same because nobody cares to look or even talk about the actual numbers. And nobody cares to even show you what 5 pounds of body fat looks like. Because they know immediately once they tell you, hey, look, this is basically the difference between the fat that they have and the fat that the intermittent fasting group has, is going to be downhill from there, right? Because they know that that's what people want to do. They want to lose visual fat, the visual element of fat. 12 months later, minus 53.2, and here it was minus 37. So total difference of minus 62.2 centimeters square over the course of a year. So why do I bring this back up? One, I know that not everyone has seen that other video, right? Two, I need to show the ridiculousness of these kind of articles. These articles that have touched on this exact study like 5 different times. And every time they write a new story around it, but every time they post it as if it's just happened. You see a study that just released July, or a journal that just released July 3rd, or an article that just released July 3rd, 2023. In your mind, you're going to think intermittent fasting as effective as calorie counting for weight loss study finds means that they found a new study, or there's a new study that is giving this indicator. And because this person has done this new article, someone else will also do it, and or someone else will do it, and someone else will do it. And we will get all of these people doing new articles on a study that they've covered 5 times. But they know that you will more than likely not click on that link, even though that is a 2022 study that has been covered a bazillion times by all these different articles, multiple different times. You're now thinking that there's a new study. This is why it's important to not even really care about what they say. Just go straight to the actual study itself. And when you do that, you will see that they're reusing the same studies. And you'll also see the intricate details that they don't want you to know, which is intermittent fasting beat it out in every single category in terms of weight loss, fat loss, the weight of that, and the waist circumference, and the overall abdominal subcutaneous fat in centimeters squared by a lot. All right, hopefully this video was informative. I did get a lot of people telling me, oh, there's studies talking about how it's the same, Can you please do a video on it? And I replied, well, what study is this? I may have already done a video on this study. And for some people, they're like, no, it's brand new. It just came out. But it's really because they, unfortunately, and not because it's their fault. They're just, this is how, information is consumed. They don't click into it, and they don't know to see that this is the same study. I look at studies all the time, so I know which studies are new, which are old. Like I've seen these studies. So I did this quick video just so you guys can see that there's a lot of fear mongering going on with intermittent fasting. It's back to the arcane times in terms of when intermittent fasting first came out, and everybody was like, oh my God, no. But now it comes from a position of like legitimate power of creating like full swings of communities that were doing intermittent fasting, clicking on your video, and the intermittent fasting haters clicking on it so that they can make their videos to be like, hey, didn't I tell you so? Even though all of them are incorrect in their assessment, because intermittent fasting in this study to me proved that it is more efficient, especially over time, as there's weight fluctuations. For if you continue to look at somebody, if they're continuing to lose weight, the intermittent fasting group lost and held on to losing more weight than the calorie counting group, even though all of the calorie counting or the calories that they consume were equated, guys. It was equal. Protein was also equated, which is important because it has a higher thermic effect. All equal. But they'll tell you, hey, yeah, but it's equal, but it's not really equal. Oh, now it's not really equal if we break everything down. But before we did, it was equal. This is the kind of rhetoric that you will get from people who just want to gain clicks from the intermittent fasting community, the intermittent fasting hating community, the on the fence community, what have you. All right, until the next time, guys, peace out, and thank you. We'll see you on Wednesday.